this. Have you ever felt rejected by God? Or have you ever felt that He has turned His back on you? Have you ever felt that He has forgotten you? Now there's two types of people maybe in this room if you've ever felt that way. Some of you who have been faithfully following the Lord, and in the midst of faithfully following the Lord, you don't hear Him, or you feel like He's forgotten you, or He has overlooked you, or that He has turned His back on you. There's another group of people, and it might be because of what you have done. Maybe you willingly understood, like I did something against God, and He's disappointed with me, or He's angry with me, or He's frustrated with me, whatever the case is, and because of that, He has turned His back on you, or He has forgotten you. The book of Daniel is about God remembering a people who have turned their back on Him. It is about a people that have turned their back, that have willingly disobeyed God. And because of that, what is happening is Israel was captured by Assyria, and they went off into exile. And Judah was taken by Babylon, and this is what we're looking at here in the book of Daniel. Judah was taken over by Babylon. And so here, these people can no longer worship the God at the temple. They can no longer worship their God the way that He had instructed them to do so. They have been taken over by a foreign group who is looking to enslave them, number one, but also force them to worship other gods, number two. And if there ever was a time for people to feel like, oh, God doesn't have my back, He's forgotten us. Like we have messed it up so much that there's no turning back. He's done with us. But we see through the life of Daniel, and we see through the life of his friends, that God is still working in the people of Israel and Judah. That God is still looking to have a relationship with them, and that God is still working to glorify Himself through them. If you have your Bibles, go ahead and open up to Daniel chapter 2. In Daniel chapter 2, essentially what is happening is King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, the country who has just ransacked Judah, the southern part of Israel. He has just ransacked them and brought all the people into Babylon. And that's what's going on right now. In the second year of his reign, this is what's around the second year of his reign, I believe. What's happened is he has had this very disturbing dream. And he needs to find out what this dream means. And so this is how it starts off. In Daniel chapter 2, it starts, one night during the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had a disturbing dream, disturbing dreams that he couldn't sleep. He called in his magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers, and he demanded that they tell him what he had dreamed. As they stood before the king, he said, I have a dream that deeply troubles me, and I must know what it means. So here is the king of Babylon. He doesn't know what's going on, and so he's bringing in all the wise men that he has from the country. From Babylon itself, but also all the areas of the people that they have conquered, and he's bringing them all in, and he's like, I need an answer because I don't know what this is about. So we see in the first two blanks, number one, this is what he is going to do. He's going to set up a scenario that has two stipulations, or it has two different things. The first one, the first one is a stipulation, and it's this. He says, if you do not tell me the dream and its meaning, you will die. That's the stipulation. All right? He also has a reward. If you tell me the dream and its meaning, you will have honor. Sort of a tight spot. This is how it goes. In verse 4, he says, the astrologers answered the king in Aramaic, long live the king, tell us the dream, and we will tell you what it means. So here are the astrologers, here are the people coming before him. He's like, tell us the dream and we'll tell you what it is. We'll tell you what it means. No problem, we've done this before. Right? All the wise men is like, yeah, this is stuff we do all the time. So just tell us and we'll tell you. Verse 5, he says, but the king said to the astrologers, I am serious about this. He says, if you don't tell me what my dream was, so you not only have to tell me the interpretation, but you have to tell me what my dream was. And then on top of that, you have to tell me the meaning. This is how it continues. And what it means. You will be torn by limb if you don't tell me what it means, and your houses will be turned into heaps of rubble. Verse 6. But if you tell me what I have dreamed and what the dream means, I will give you many wonderful gifts and honors. Just tell me the dream and what it means. Now that is an impossible task. Who can know what the dream was and who can interpret it correctly? There's nobody who can do that. It continues on. It says in verse 7, they said again, please, your majesty, tell us the dream, and we will tell you what it means. So they're trying to stall him a little bit. In fact, that's the wise men's response in our as we're going through our outlines. The first one is to stall. Have you ever been in class and your professor or your teacher is trying to think about like whether they have the test this week or next week, right? And you just kind of stall. They're rushed on giving you all the information for the test, and so you keep asking questions and asking questions and asking questions so you can put it off to the next week, or maybe it'll never happen. I remember doing that in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, right? We all try to do that. And here are the astrologers, here are the wise men coming. He's like, well, wait a second, let's just figure this out. Because he wanted an answer now. And these astrologers, these wise men, were not able to give him an answer now. So they stalled. And then it continues on, and the king said in verse 8, he says, the king replied, I know what you are doing. You are stalling for time because you know I am serious when I say, if you do not tell me the dream, you are doomed. So you have conspired to tell me lies, hoping I will change my mind, but tell me the dream, and then I'll know that you can tell me what it means. So here is the king. And you're like, why is the king doing this? Why is the king doing this? There's a couple of reasons. Number one, he might be crazy. Okay? It's not above kings to be crazy. All right? The King Herod, all right, during Jesus' time when he was born, King Herod was brilliant. Okay? If you go to Israel, you can see his architecture, you can see all this sort of stuff. But the dude was crazy. He killed family members just because he thought they were against him. And then on top of that, you guys remember, here was Jesus who was born in Bethlehem. And so he was concerned that this king, this baby king, was going to overthrow him. So what did he do? He killed all the children 2 years of age or younger. Okay? Herod was crazy. Kings are crazy. Nebuchadnezzar, probably crazy. But in addition to that, if you are in a place of leadership, what do you need more than anything? You need wise counsel. And so when you're in that position, and you need this wise counsel, he is giving these people a legitimate thing. You guys believe in your little gods and everything like that, right? This is the test that I have not only for you, but for your God, or for your whatever sort of thing you get your wisdom from. This is what I need to know. If your God is so great, then this is what I need. I need for your God to tell you, to tell me what my dream was. And I need the interpretation. So he might have been a little bit crazy, but he also might have been, a little bit wise here too, saying, I need this because I need to know which God to follow. I need to know which wise man to follow. The other ones we're going to eradicate, right? Because your God wasn't strong enough to figure out what my dream was. But this person was wise enough, was strong enough. So, if we look in our outlines, the wise men's response were, number one, to stall, and number two, it was to complain. King Nebuchadnezzar, this is an impossible task. It continues on in verse 10. He says, the astrologers replied to the king, no one on earth can tell the king his dream. No one on earth. This is absolutely impossible. It's crazy what you're even asking us to do, Nebuchadnezzar. It's an impossible job. You're asking me to build a skyscraper in 3 days with $30,000. It's impossible. No one on earth can tell the king his dream. And no king, however great or powerful, has ever asked such a thing of any magician, enchanter or astrologer. It's never been done before. The king's demand is impossible. No one except the gods can tell you your dream. And they do not live here among this people. Verse 12, the king was furious. And when he heard this, and he had ordered that all the wise men of Babylon be executed. And because of the king's decree, men were sent to find and kill Daniel and his friends. So realize, Daniel and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, are Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, whatever name you want to use. They weren't even in this little council. They were someplace else, and so this council with the kings, they were interacting. But the edict went out, the decree went out to kill all the wise men, including the people who weren't even there. It continues on. It says in verse 14, when Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, came to kill them, Daniel handled his situation with wisdom and discretion. He asked Arioch, why has the king issued such a harsh decree? So Arioch told him all that had happened. Daniel went once to see the king and requested more time to tell the king what the dream meant. Then Daniel went home and told his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, what had happened. We'll pause in verse 18 for just a second. So here is Arioch coming to Daniel, getting ready to kill him. Okay? He is at his door, getting ready to cut off his head or whatever he's about to do. And here's Daniel, and he's like, whoa, let's just calm down here for a second. Do you have any of those calm people in your life? Right? You go with all the craziness. My boss is that way. Okay? I go in with my craziness, and it's probably because he's older than I am, wiser than I am, and a lot of other things. He's been through this before. But whenever I give him a situation or a problem, I always get this measured tone of voice that is full of grace, full of diplomacy, encouraging, and a wise solution, or at least getting me on a path toward a wise solution. And here was Daniel, who was standing before Arioch, and he had this edict to kill Daniel, and he's like, whoa, let's calm down here for a second, okay? Like, if you guys kill all the wise men, let's just think through this real quick. If you kill all the wise men in the country, then who will be giving advice to the king? This is extra biblical. This is not necessarily what happened, but you get the idea, right? Let's just talk about this for a second. Let's flesh through it, right? Let's just take it toward its necessary ending. Yeah, this probably isn't going to be good. Okay, so how about this? How about you give me an escort to the king, and I'll go talk to the king. I didn't even know about this. Okay, so we're going to go talk to the king. Is that okay? Can you put your sword away? All right, good. And that's what Daniel does. He goes to King Nebuchadnezzar, and he says, wait a second, I didn't even know about this. Let me go back to my friends. We'll talk through it. Just give me a little bit of time. Not trying to stall. Just give me a little bit of time. And then this is what happens after that. Verse 18. He urged his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He urged them to ask the God of heaven to show them his mercy by telling them the secret, so that they would not be executed along with the other men of Babylon. Now realize at this time, the people of Judah had felt that God had turned their back on him. God had turned his back on them, rather. They had no right to go before the throne of God and say, God, help us. Because they had already messed over God in that relationship. God had shown himself as good to Daniel and to his three friends. And so they go before the Lord. They go before the throne room of grace. Have you ever been at that point in time in your life where you don't deserve to go before the Lord? But in that moment, you're like, God, I need you. I need you to show up now, because I don't have anybody else to go to. I need you to show yourself as greater than my situation. I need you to show yourself as greater than any other thing that is the most powerful in my life. Whether it be money or whether it be friends or whatever it is, I have no other choice but to come to you. Help me. this is what happens. That night, the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision. God provided. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven. He said, "Praise the name of God forever and ever. For he has all wisdom and power. He controls the course of world events. He removes kings and sets up other kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the scholars. He reveals deep and mysterious things and knows what lies hidden in darkness. Though he is surrounded by light, I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors. For you have given me wisdom and strength." You didn't have to, but you did. "You have told me what we asked of you and revealed to us what the king demanded." Have you ever had a specific prayer answered by God? And in that moment you realize this is the God of the heavens. This is the God of the universe. And he is mindful of me. This little thing in my life, it's important to me, but it's not important to anybody else. Maybe it's a little bit extra money to make ends meet toward the end of the month. Maybe it's that relationship that you're really struggling in. Maybe it's the depression that you're dealing with. Maybe it's the health issue. Whatever it is. And in the midst of all the craziness that's going on in the world and in your personal life, whatever, and here is God, who you know there is no other way but by God that he answered that prayer. And here's Daniel, and he's like, "God, I don't deserve an answer, but I need an answer." And the God of the heavens shows up in Daniel's life. As we're going through our outline here, here's what Daniel's discoveries are. Number one, in the face of pressure, he had wisdom and tact. Number two, in the face of doom, he depended on God. Number three, in the face of crisis, there was an opportunity for God to show up, and he did. And then we're about to read this in just a second. In the face of execution, there is a plea to save life. It continues on in verse 24, and he says, "Then Daniel went to see Arioch, whom the king had ordered to execute the wise men of Babylon. And Daniel said to him, 'Don't kill the wise men. Take me to the king, and I will tell him the meaning of his dream.'" You know what? If there's ever a time for Daniel to leverage something, for him to be the only wise man in all the country, in all the nation, now was the time. Because not only were they going to kill Daniel and his three friends, they were also going to kill everybody else. And so this is what Daniel says. Daniel doesn't just say, "Take me to the king," but yeah, you can go ahead and slaughter them. Right? They were worshiping other gods. But what did he say? He said, no, hold off. Because they shouldn't be killed either. You know, there's a lot of political stuff going on right now, isn't there? There's a lot of religious tension going on right now. As followers of Jesus Christ, we ought to be unapologetic about the gospel. And that means that people can be reconciled to God through the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. We should not be apologetic about that. But in the process of sometimes Christianity being leveraged in a good way, other people are marginalized. And if we have a holistic view of what Christianity truly is, it means that we promote the gospel, but we also do good for others. And that means that all people are made in the image and likeness of God. And if we promote Christianity at the expense of other people and their value to God, then that is not a good thing. And here is Daniel, who had an opportunity to leverage his Jewish faith to the king of Babylon. Yes, kill them. Go ahead. It's your edict. But instead, what does he do? He uses his influence for good. The saving of lives of people who do not even worship is God. He continues on. Arioch, verse 25, Arioch quickly took Daniel to the king and said, I have found one of the captives from Judah who will tell the king the meaning of his dream. The king said to Daniel, also known as Belshazzar, is this true? Can you tell me what my dream was and what it means? So the two stipulations, the two standards are still there. You need to tell me what the dream is, and you need to tell me what it means. And this is Daniel's response. Absolutely, I can tell you your dream. No, it's not that. Verse 27, Daniel replied, there is no wise men, enchanters, magicians, or fortune tellers who can reveal the king's secrets. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the future. Now I will tell you your dream and the visions you saw as you lay on your bed. So here is what Daniel is saying. No man, and this is in the blank below, the revelation interpretation, no man can solve this problem. Only God can reveal and interpret. And so Daniel is saying, I don't have the power to tell you what happened. I don't know what happened in your dream, but God does, and he has told me to tell you, and this is what it is. Verse 31, in your vision, your majesty, you saw standing before you a huge shining statue of a man. It was a frightening sight. The head of the statue was made of fine gold. Its chest and arms were made of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs were iron, and its feet were a combination of iron and baked clay. As you watched, a rock was cut from a mountain, but not by human hands. It struck the feet of iron and clay, smashing them to bits. The whole statue was crushed into small pieces of iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold. Then the wind blew them away without a trace, like chaff on a threshing floor. But the rock that knocked the statue down became a great mountain that covered the whole earth. So essentially, Cliff Notes version, this is what happened. There is a statue that had a variety of different elements, different parts, and we'll get to this in just a second. All right? And so it was this huge statue that was standing there. But then there was a rock that was taken not by human hands, but it was carved by something, maybe by a deity of sorts. And that huge rock just crushed all this entire statue, starting with the legs in clay and the iron and clay, but then bringing everything to pieces. And he talks about it being like chaff. Realize that on a threshing floor, here's an ox that you put down the wheat or you put down whatever it is, and the ox walks around in a circle, right? And he's tied to this contraption, and so he's walking around in a circle, and he's crushing the wheat, and he's crushing the crop. And so this is what happens. You have the crop, and you have the wheat, you have all that, or whatever it is, but then you also have the chaff. And so what happens is you pick up both the wheat and the chaff, and you have this sort of like little piece of cloth or whatever, and you throw it up in the air, and the chaff blows away, and the wheat remains, or the crop remains. And he's saying the gold and the silver and the bronze and the iron and everything, it just blows away like chaff. And so what only remains is this huge mountainous rock. That's the dream. And this is what Daniel says. Verse 36, that was the dream. Now we will tell the king what it means. Your Majesty, you are the greatest of kings. The God of heaven has given you sovereignty, power, strength, and honor. He has made you ruler over the inhabitants of the world and put even the wild animals and birds under your control. You are the head of gold. So if we're going through this outline, the head of gold, that's the first blank, and that is Babylon. He continues on. He says, but after your kingdom comes to an end, another kingdom inferior to yours will rise to take your place. Just so you know, if we're following along, the chest and arms of silver What many scholars believe is that would be Medo-Persia, Persia. Okay? After that kingdom had fallen, yet a third kingdom, represented by bronze, will rise to rule the world. Some believe that this is going to be Greece. Following that kingdom, there will be a fourth one, as strong as iron. Many believe that to be Rome. And that kingdom will smash and crush all previous empires, just as iron smashes and crushes everything it strikes. The feet and toes you saw were a combination of iron and baked clay, perhaps a combination of Roman culture and some other cultures, showing that the kingdom will be divided. Like iron mixed with clay, it will have some part of strength of iron, but while some parts of it were as strong as iron, other parts will be weak as clay. This mixture of iron and clay also shows that these kingdoms will try to strengthen themselves by forming alliances with each other through intermarriage. But they will not hold together, just as iron and clay do not mix. Just like Rome and some of these other nation states perhaps won't mix very well. Verse 44. But during the reigns of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed or conquered. So the rock is perhaps Jesus and his kingdom. It will crush all these kingdoms into nothingness, and it will stand forever. That is the meaning of the rock cut from the mountain, though not by human hands, that crushed to pieces the statue of iron, bronze, clay, silver, and gold. Do you have political concerns these days? Do you have concerns about where the nation is going to be in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Do you have concerns what Russia is going to do in the next 5, 10, 15 years? Do you have concerns about these things? It's okay to be concerned. It's okay to be politically active. But I also want you to be at rest as a follower of Jesus Christ, because God has it all under control. Continues on. That is the meaning of the rock cut from the mountain, though not by human hands, that crushed the pieces of statue of iron, bronze, clay, and gold. The great God was showing the king what will happen in the future. The dream is true, and its meaning is certain. Why can Daniel say that the dream is true and the meaning is certain? Because he got it from God himself. Then King Nebuchadnezzar threw himself down before Daniel and worshipped him. And he commanded his people to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings and sweet incense before him. The king said to Daniel, "Truly your God is the greatest of gods, the Lord over kings, a revealer of mysteries, for you have been able to reveal this secret." Then the king appointed Daniel to a high position and gave him many valuable gifts. He made Daniel ruler over the whole province of Babylon, as well as chief over all his wise men. So he essentially became a vice president, only with more responsibility, more power and authority. At Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be in charge. It's good to be friends with Daniel, right? To be in charge of all the affairs of the province of Babylon, while Daniel remained in the king's courts. As we read this today, what do I pick up? There's a lot of things to cover in this. But what do I pick up as the big idea? If you like run-on sentences, you'll love this big idea. Okay? Here's what it is. Times of crises are windows of opportunity. Have you ever been in a crisis? You also realize that in a moment of crisis, those can be opportunities for God to show up, right? So here, times of crises are windows of opportunity, what? To trust a God that is bigger than our problems. Do you believe in that? Do you believe that the God that you trust for your salvation is also bigger than the issue that you're going through right now? He may not solve the issue all the time. He may step in and do that. He might not. But he also has the power and creativity to preserve you in the midst of this issue too. The opportunity to trust a God that is bigger than our problems and to be used by him as an influence for good. Instead of running away, instead of using that as an opportunity to leverage yourself above everybody else, it is a time to be salt and light to a world that is desperately needing God. And it continues on, to be used by him as an influence for good, so that God can have victory and glory in lands that do not know him. In lands that do not know him. Our goal on life, my goal in life, is not to become the richest pastor in the world. Although if you want to give to me, I'll take it. Right? My goal in life is not to be the most influencing pastor in the world. My goal in life is none of that. My goal in life should be, if I have my life correctly aligned to the purpose of Christ, is to glorify God in every area of my life, to make him great in everything I do. He has paid the price for my sins, so I am reconciled to God. And now I have the opportunity to display the greatness and the glory and the goodness and the love and the faithfulness and the patience and the peace that comes by God through Jesus Christ. And we can do that wherever we go. And Daniel, he was an exile who went and he had an opportunity to be an influence for good. And in so doing, the king of Babylon, the greatest king, the king of kings on that earthly, on the planet right at that point in time, the greatest king of all time, bowed down to God Almighty because of what Daniel did. When we read the New Testament and when Jesus talks about being the light of the world and being the salt of the earth, he says we are the salt of the earth. We preserve the character of God in a decaying world. Do we see the world decay sometimes right now? Yes. You don't have to watch very long on TV to see that the world is decaying. And he also says, you are the light of the world, a city on a hill that can't be hidden. We share the glory of God. We display it to a dark world that doesn't know the direction that they need to go. And then he says this, and in so doing, when they see you, he says they will glorify their God in heaven. They don't say, Josh, when they see you, they're going to make you rich. Josh, when they see you, they're going to plaster your name on a hospital somewhere. When they see you, they're going to... You fill in the blank. It doesn't say that. Because, you know what? Wealth goes to another person when I pass away. And hospitals, they will close eventually. But the name of God will be lifted high forever. And in this particular situation, Daniel was an influence for good in a very tight spot, in a crisis when he didn't know if God was going to show up. But in the midst of that tight spot, there was an opportunity for him to trust a God that was bigger than his problem, for him to be used by God as an influence for good, so that God can have the victory and God can have the glory. This is my encouragement to you, and then this is my question to you. My encouragement to you is that God has not forgotten you. My encouragement to you is that God is on your side. Wherever you're at. God is working good for you. Believe that when you call, he will answer. Just commit to him. That when you reach out to him, you'll glorify him in the situation. And then this is my question. What is your crisis? What is your issue? What is your need? Give it to him. In the same way that Daniel called out to him, he hears you. Because of what Jesus did. Call out to him. He will hear you. He will respond. And he will give you victory. I don't know what victory looks like. But his name will be lifted high and glorified. Call out to him. Do good. Give him glory. Would you pray with me?